খুবই প্রয়োজনীয় আমাদের ক্যারিয়ারকে এগিয়ে নিয়ে যাওয়ার জন্য। আর ক্যারিয়ার ক্লাব সবসময় এই সব সফট স্কিল নিয়ে কাজ করে থাকে, সেটিরই অংশ হিসেবে আজকে আমাদের এই ওয়ার্কশপ। তো আমরা সময় নষ্ট না করে আমাদের মূল ইভেন্টে চলে যাব। তো সবাই আপনাদের সকলের সহযোগিতা আমাদের কাম্য। আপনারা সবাই দয়া করে আপনাদের ভিডিও এবং মাইক্রোফোন অফ রাখবেন। আমাদের প্রোগ্রামটি কি কয়েকটি সেগমেন্টে হবে এবং সেগমেন্টের শেষে আমরা আপনাদের প্রশ্নগুলো অ্যান্সার দেওয়ার চেষ্টা করব। আপনারা সবাই আপনাদের প্রশ্নগুলো আপনাদের চ্যাট বক্সে করবেন, আমরা চেষ্টা করব আপনাদের প্রশ্নগুলো অ্যান্সার দেওয়ার জন্য। তো আমরা দেরি না করে আমরা চলে যাচ্ছি আমাদের জনাব মাসুম স্যারের কাছে। স্যার।
Thank you so much, Ashfaq and Mamun and Chittagong Engineering University Career Club.
Thank you, sir.
So basically, I would like to welcome you all in today's, if not workshop, I'll say basically a knowledge sharing session. So where basically I will take you through in some basic steps of basically how you can create a presentation, which I'm sure that most of you are already aware of. Yeah. So before I start my presentation, I would like to introduce myself because, but that part has basically taken care of Ashraf. So I'll basically dig down directly to the topic that we have. I just let me present my screen. Let me know if it is. You can see my screen.
Okay, sir.
Do you see my screen?
Yes, sir. Dekte pacchi, sir.
What's the first slide reads out?
It's introduction, sir.
Introduction. All right. So basically the introduction part has been taken care of. So I'll not, without further ado, I basically jump into the main topic. But before start with even the introduction of the topic, how many of you are familiar with the analogy of butterfly in the stomach? It's basically an analogy that suggests that it's a fear, the discomfort and the stress that we have when something really critical and something really important is going to happen. So that's when basically the butterfly keeps on flying in our stomach. So it's an analogy that basically used to derive the stress that we feel when something important is going to take place.
Yes, sir. The nervousness.
Yeah, the nervousness, right. So basically, exactly that's what happens. I mean, I'm sure that we have gone through these phases, all of us, in some or the other way around in our everyday life.
Yes,
like when there's an exam going on, the last moment preparation, when there is a job interview, when there is a dating, probably the first date with your girlfriend. Yeah. And there are other events when the butterfly basically flies in a stomach because it's stressful. Yeah. And
yes, sir.
It's stressful. So what does the image suggest? It suggests fear, right?
Yes.
We are fearful. And what is our biggest fear when it comes to presentation? If you could respond, some of you, if I could see some of the responses, or probably I could hear some of the response from the audiences. What is your biggest fear when it comes to a presentation?
Sir, it's quietly, sir, the people speaking in front of people, the public speaking, I say.
Public speaking, yeah. And what else?
Sir, lack of confidence about the speech we are going to tell or express our speech and anything about the topic.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely right. Like probably you are fearful that that you may forget your stuff, like whatever you put in the presentation. When a question will be asked, you probably forget what have you arranged in your presentation, what are the contents of your presentation. You may forget your things that you have put in your presentation, or you may be fearful about probably you'll not be able to answer if somebody asks a question regarding the topic you're covering, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Or probably you probably would think that how silly would I look when I'll do the presentation, and how nervous would I look if I go and do the presentation. Probably I'll not make it a good one. Then I will look silly, right?
Yes, sir. Exactly.
And yeah, and we may be scared of humiliation altogether. Like if the presentation did not go well, does not go well, probably what will happen after the class? My classmates will look at me from the corner of the eyes, probably. They'll
Yes,
think,
sir.
yeah, and
Yes,
how
sir.
the teacher will think, how the board will think that a silly question could not be answered by me. That fear of humiliation. What
Yes,
else?
sir, of course.
Probably
Of course,
I'll mumble. Yeah, probably I'll mumble.
yes.
Meaning I'll stammer. I'll stammer when I'll talk. I'll not come up with the right words. Probably. Is that the fear we have, all of you?
Yes, sir, of course. The laughing
Yeah,
of persons.
yeah,
They
yeah,
will laugh. My friends will laugh on me. Everything
yeah,
else. And the
exactly.
humiliation.
And also, I'm too shy.
Yes,
I'm too shy. I'm too shy to speak in front of people, right? Probably. Or
of course, sir.
what if I fail completely? What if the presentation is completely a disaster? Or maybe, can I make my point? The point I'm trying to make, will I be able to make my point clear to my audience? Is that what our fear? Or probably I'm not very fluent in whatever language the presentation is going to take place, be it English or Bangla. Yeah, or
Yes,
probably,
sir. Actually.
or probably my terrible English. I'm not very good at English. Probably that's what my biggest fear is, right?
Yes, sir. My accent also.
Yeah. So these all the fear. It's very reasonable to fear. It's very reasonable to fear, and it's very natural to fear when you are doing a presentation, because it's a big deal. It's a big deal, not for only people, freshers like most of us, but yeah, even in a corporate setting, even in big events, even the famous public speakers, they're even sometimes scared of big audience. They're scared of the reactions of the audience. They're scared of what kind of questions probably can come from the audience, and how would the speakers would respond to that question. So these are the fear that even the biggest of the famous of the speakers, public speakers, have most of the time. So it's quite natural to have fears like that.
Yes, sir. Exactly.
So before we need to deal with the fear, we need to understand what basically the fear is. Whatever you want to manage or whatever you want to control, we first need to understand. Now, let's say you want to drive a car, so you need to understand how the control system runs, what the brake does, what the accelerator does, what the handbrake does, where the key button is, right? How will you honk? How will you turn on the headlights? So there are a lot of things you need to understand. So before you need to control or manage something, you need to basically understand what you are dealing with altogether, right?
Exactly.
So here basically we're dealing with fear, the causes of the fear. And fear is basically the unfamiliarity, the uncomfort, the the stress that you have, probably you will be threatened, not threatened for your death, probably you'll be threatened in a situation that you're not comfortable to deal with. Probably you'll feel insecure, probably you'll feel uncomfortable, probably you'll feel stressed. So that's the fear that we have, right? Now,
Exactly.
now we need to understand what is fear. Now we understood what fear is. Now, what are the different types of fear that you have in your life? Let's say, apart from presentation, what do you fear?
So the fear of facing the judges, facing our teachers,
Not getting
the
a job.
nervousness, and just getting a job, getting
Yeah,
what will the outcome of my presentation if I go something wrong.
yeah, okay.
So,
So, so what basically causes this fear, especially when it comes to presentation? What causes this fear? What do you think? What causes the fear? Now we understand, like, what are the different fears that we have? Someone fears to fail. Someone fears to someone fears to be put on the spotlight. Someone fears to be humiliated. Someone fears to be speak in front of audience. So what causes this fear? Especially when it comes to presentation. That means
the lack of confidence, actually, the
yeah,
understanding the front face of people. We cannot. We have lack of communication with others.
right, right.
That's why the fear comes, and we will don't know what will happen next if I do something wrong. That's the fear. So,
Correct. Now let's see what the root causes of fear when it comes to presentation.
May I add something, sir,
Yes, go ahead.
about the causes? Yeah, the thing really I faced about my last competition. I had a presentation,
Yeah.
and that time I faced what are the key problems actually. If I word that different kinds of words or lines I'm using, then simply the presentation is totally ruined. Actually, I just wanted to know that what kinds of things are prohibited totally when you are providing any presentation. So these are some confusions, and these confusions literally just pull down my confidence level down totally.
Correct. Very nicely put. Very nicely put. Very nicely put. Thank you so much. Now, what causes the fear? Let's see some of the root causes of the fear. The first correctly pointed out the lack of confidence, and the other one is the lack of control. All of you have put the right points. Like the first respondent, you say the lack of confidence, correctly put. The second respondent says you don't have a control over the situation because you don't know what kind of people you're going to face when you are doing a presentation. You're not very sure like how the audience will perceive your presentation and your reaction. You don't have control over your feelings when it comes to managing stress, and of course you don't have a complete control over the situation. Yeah, so that's where basically those are the uncertainty basically brings the fear in our heart. Now, and the fear increases. Fear is such a thing. If we do not deal it rightly, if we do not handle it in the right time, it will go higher and higher and higher until it kills your confidence and it kills you altogether. So when it comes to presentation, your stress level goes up, your causes of fear your fear goes up. If you see the size of the audience is huge, right? Like when you're presenting probably in the career club, when you're presenting probably in front of your peers, your batchmates, probably 10, 15 of your batchmates, you are quite comfortable, you are quite confident, but the moment you are, the same speech you are asked to give in a podium, in an auditorium, in front of probably, let's say 200 students, the same confident you will probably stumble, will probably mumble, because the size of the audience went up.
Yes, sir, exactly.
Also, you are also when you are presenting to your roommates, when you are presenting to your best friend, you are confident, you are comfortable. But when the moment the audience changes, the nature of the audience changes, or the situation changes, the fears goes up. Because it's not your colleague or it's not your peers, it's the judges, it's not the peers, it's the interviewer, it's the employer, right? It's probably your boss. And the situation is different because now you are not presenting. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, completely.
Okay. Is it coming from me, the noise? All right, thank you. Am I still audible? All right.
Sir.
All right. So basically, the audience is a circumstantial fact, a circumstantial factor, which will change time to time. When you are a job interview, you will have, let's say, 2-3 interviewers. The size is small, but since the nature of the audience changes, and the situation changes from your career club or probably your classroom to an interview board, your stress level goes up, right? Now, basically, the problem is not, and this is something you cannot dictate. You cannot decide on like how many, how many number of audience you would like to see in front of you when you are doing a presentation. Can we all control that? No, we cannot. You cannot go in a meeting room and say, you cannot go in an interview board and say, I'm not comfortable giving interview with, let's say, 4 or 5 people. I would like to sit with 2 of the interviewer. Do you think that is acceptable? Do you think that is acceptable?
No, sir.
Absolutely no. So what's the deal here? The deal here is what we are expecting our audience to do. That's where the catch is. Because your audience can be 1, 2 millions, and you have no control. We have no control over that. But the thing that we control is what we're expecting our audience to do, and that is within our hand. And what's that? Often when we present, we want our audience to basically comply with what I'm saying, right? We want our audience to listen to the point I'm making. We want to impress the audience. And that's where the stress begins. Like we want to have a complete command over the situation, and we want to control over the situation that we cannot control basically. And we want to impress the audience. We want our audience to be mesmerized with our presentation. Or at least we want our audience to be happy or to be convinced with my points. So here, we need to set a realistic expectation, right? We cannot control the number of audience in front of us, but we can control what we're expecting from our audience. Don't expect to impress them. Don't expect to have a complete control over their emotions. We cannot control that. Right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Am I making myself clear? Do you understand the point I'm trying to make?
Yes, sir.
The moment you will set your expectation as I want to impress everyone, you basically killed your presentation then and there. You have to set a right expectation. You're not there to impress your audience. You are there to make your point clear. You are making a presentation or you're doing a presentation because you want them to understand what you have to say, the point you are trying to make. Now, let's say you are making a project presentation. Probably you would like to construct a jetty in a port, and you feel that is very important. So you need to make your investors understand what the jetty would do for the port and how important the jetty is for the port. And then only you'll be able to make your point come across. No matter what, if the audiences are impressed or not, you just need to make sure that you made your points clear. And also you need to be careful about what your audience need to understand or what your audience need to know from your presentation. So you need to make those points clear to your audience, not to impress.
Yes, sir.
Now basically, here the audience is taken care of. So audience is not the problem. It's we and our expectation that we set from our audience is the problem. Are we clear on this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
Yes,
if you have any question in between, you can the moderator can keep the questions and probably can interrupt me anywhere, and then we can clarify the question and then move on. So shall I move on now?
Yes, sir.
So we
আর
need to
কোশ্চেন
do,
থাকলে চ্যাট বক্সে করতে পারেন।
yeah, but will I be able to see the chat box? Just let me. Will I be able to see the chat box? Yeah. Okay. I will be.
Please mute your mic.
All right. So if we have any question, the moderator please ask the question on the participant's behalf. Yeah, so we need to overcome the fear. So audience part is taken care of, hence we cannot control the number of audience or the type of audience we have in front of us. So we need to set a right expectation that we will not go there to impress our audience, but we will go there to make our points clear to the audience, or we want to make the information clear to our audience that they need to understand. Okay? Now, how will we overcome the fear we have in regards to the presentation? So how to overcome the fear? So what were the causes of the fear? Lack of confidence and lack of control. Lack of confidence and lack of control over the situation, or the feeling of that I don't have control over my emotions. I don't have control, probably the reactions, my stress level. Those are the causes of the stress. Now, how to overcome that? So to understand how to overcome the fear, these two were the root cause of the fear. And if we just now would like to address how we would be able to overcome the fear, we need to go backwards. Most of our lack of confidence issues basically comes in because our preparations are not adequate. We need to ask a question to ourselves. Have we given enough attention, enough time to prepare the presentation, to prepare myself as a presenter? Have I given enough time to prepare for the presentation? Or have I rehearsed my presentation a couple of times in front of my friends, probably, in front of my peers, probably, or probably just in front of the mirror to make yourself more confident? Usually, how many times you have rehearsed before a presentation? If you could just give a response. The moderators. Or do you actually prepare? Do you actually rehearse your presentation before the final presentation? Okay, all right. Yeah, if you could, yeah. And so we need to give the presentation enough time, enough effort, so that my confidence issues will be evaporated, will be vanished, because I'm not confident, because I haven't prepared myself well. The more you prepare, the more you rehearse, likelihood is high, the more you will feel confident. Now, there is a statistics done by an US organization that basically conducts and do a research on the presentation, Forbes. And they say that 75% of our stresses reduces if you practice more than 3 times. 75% of your stresses or lack of confidence, your confidence increases 75% if you rehearse your presentation more than 3 times. Not only that, and this rehearsal increases the likelihood of making less mistake by 95%. Okay? Rehearsing your presentation is that important. And lack of control of the situation. That basically comes from low experience. Because the more you do presentation, the more you feel confident. Now, a fresher, when his first presentation goes on, he will not be as confident as his teacher, or he will not be even as confident as a 2 years senior student. Will he be? No, because he has experienced less number of encounter when it comes to presentation. So the more you will go and present, the more you will feel confident, and the more you will feel in control of the situation, of the audience, and of your emotion. And how you can increase your experience? You can join social clubs, you can join extracurricular clubs like your career clubs. You can join debate clubs. You can join different public speaking session. Yeah. So, and the more you expose yourself in that kind of event, your experience goes up, and you will feel more in control. You will feel more in control. You will have more control over the audience. You will have more control over your emotion and your reactions when it comes to presentation. Now, this is a flow chart. Basically, if you want to, we will start from right side up until left side to reach to the right side. So we need to prepare ourselves well first, and we need to rehearse number of times so that we feel confident. And if we're confident, then we will keep ourselves calm in a stressful presenting situation. And if we keep ourselves calm, then only we will overcome the fear and we will be able to calm our butterflies in the stomach. So what's the key here? The key here is to calm the butterfly, meaning your fear. To calm your fear, you must be relaxed. When you'll be relaxed? To be relaxed, you must be confident. Question is, when you'll be confident? You'll be confident only and only you are prepared and you are well rehearsed. That's the way you can calm your butterfly. You can diminish your fear and you can overcome your fear of presentation. And despite all this, if you're still scared, you have rehearsed number of times, you're feeling confident, you're keeping your calm, you're kind of understanding that you are overcoming your fear, but then again, right before the presentation, still you feel the butterflies are in your stomach. You are having a fear, but still, it's okay. It's okay to be scared, because being scared means you are going to do something really, really brave. So give yourself an applause for that. Give yourself a pat on your shoulder that you're going to do something really great, really brave, and you deserve to be a bit scared, and it's fine, it's okay. Don't stress it. Now, I'll take you through the ABCD of the presentation, the very basics. I'm sure that most of you have pretty clear idea of how to make a presentation, PowerPoint presentation. You need to be careful about the font. The headline should be in bold, or the headline should be at least 2 to 3 font larger than your body contents. You should not have more than one information in a one slide. You should not have too many text in one slide. Yeah, and you should not use more than one type of font in one presentation. Yeah, so these are the things I'm sure that by this time you all know. So I would like to give you some of the most important points that you need to be careful if you want to make a good presentation. The first tip number 1 is plan your presentation. You need to plan your presentation, because if you don't plan your presentation, it is meant to fail. And by the meaning of plan your presentation is give itself enough time, give the presentation enough time, do enough homework, do enough information gathering, and do enough homework to make your presentation look like a presentation, look like a good one. Now you need to plan what are the informations you would like to see in your presentation. You need to understand how much time you have in your hand. You need to plan what are the medias you're going to use. And the more media you use in your presentation, by the word media, I mean you can use PowerPoint, that's one media of presentation. Simultaneously, you can use a flip chart. That is another media of presentation. Simultaneously, probably you can use a demonstration. Probably you can use a role play in between. A role play is kind of a small drama in between in your presentation, just to make your audience understand what the key message of your presentation. Now, there are a number of ways you can increase the number of media in your presentation. So you need to plan your presentation accordingly. First, you need to understand who is your audience and what they want to hear and what you want them to hear. What point you are trying to make towards your audience. You need to prepare your informations. You need to prepare your media. What are the medias you'll be using? And you need to plan your time accordingly. You need to plan which dress you will wear before in your presentation. So you need to keep them clean the day before. Right? You need to check your media. Probably you'll know your laptop may fail when you go to present. Your projector may fail. So you need to check all this before starting the presentation, just to ensure the presentation, when you do the presentation goes well. Okay? The second tips I'm going to give you is, what is it you think? What the picture says you, what the picture tells you here.
To make it clear.
Absolutely. You just nail it. Keep it simple. Keep your presentation simple. Now let me give you a story. It's the year 2005. No, it's the year 2004. I was a first year student in a private university, and it was my presentation. It was probably, it was a marketing 101 presentation. So I was presenting a case on Harley Davidson. I studied the case well. I wrote the answer well. I prepared the presentation well. But when I prepared the presentation, I used complex sentences. You know what transformational words mean? Like therefore, however, on the contrary, moreover. These are called transformational words. Transitional words, my bad. Transitional words. Now, when you are making a point and you want to make a different point altogether, then you use in between a transition point. Transition words like however, but, yet, however, moreover, therefore, nevertheless. These are the transitional words. Guess what? I have written my script with such complex transition words. Now, when I'm in the presentation, I was at the presentation board and the presentation desk. I failed to recall those transitional words. Now, despite all my good preparations and my authentic hard work, I looked like a fool. I fooled myself completely there. I failed myself there. And you know why? Because my content was not simple. So your script needs to be very neat with simple sentences. Don't use complex sentences unless you are very confident. Use simple sentences. Use simple data. Use simple piece of information. Use simple audio visual. Yeah? So that you can connect with your audience, and God forbid, while in the presentation, if you are lost, you can quickly reclaim yourself because you kept it simple. So your slides should be clean with less information. Your presentation script, that what you're going to say, write it in very simple words. Don't use complex sentences and compound sentences, because it will make your presentation difficult on you and to some extent difficult on your audience. So keep it simple. Tip number 3. What's that? Smile. Start your presentation with a smiling face and keep a constant smile on your face. it will make yourself calm. It will give you confidence. It will give you confidence instantly, and it will give a positive signal towards the audience that you are confident, and they will treat you as a confident presenter. But when you're presenting, if you're nervous, you're worried, you forgot to smile. Now, that gives an instant message towards your audience that you are nervous. Now, if there are some naughty audiences among them, they may ruin your presentation, like the second respondent, the second fellow brother said. There are things that can ruin your presentation. Yes, your audience can ruin your presentation if they find that you are not confident enough. So keep a smile on your face, glued. That will glue your audience. Yeah? That's that. You need to have right posture. You need to have right posture to signal, to transmit energy. You need to have a right posture. The way you stand, the way you hold your presentation material, the way you hold your microphone probably, the way you move your hands gives a signal towards your audience that how confident you are and how passionate you are about the topic you are presenting. And that instantly make the deal. The moment the audience understand you are confident, they become more receptive, they become more cooperative in your presentation. Now, there are few tips and tricks I'm sure that you have gone through probably in your business communication class or probably in different other forums, that don't keep your hands in your pocket. That's a closed gesture. You will immediately lose your credibility towards your audience. You should not cross your hand like that. If you do that, if you cross your hand on your chest, that means you are not listening to your audience. You're closed. Keep your arm open. Keep your palm upside so that you are engaged, so that the audience can understand that you are open towards idea, you are open towards feedback, and you are open towards criticism, and you are confident. So we need to have right posture. Okay?
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
And tip number 5, don't rush. Don't rush your presentation. Don't rush through your presentation. Keep it slow and steady. Because at the end of the day, steady wins the race. Because the moment, most of us or some of us probably have a struggle with fluency. Some of us probably have a struggle in our communication skill, like in our English. Some of us have a difficulty in our accent. And if we try to make it finish like in blink of your eyes, if you rush enough, then what will happen is that will put yourself in more stress, and you will forget more things, and you will feel more nervous. So keep it slow. Talk slowly, firmly, not slowly. By slowly, I don't mean softly. Talk firmly, but talk slowly. Okay? Because if you finish your sentence slowly, you will have more time to think through what's the next stage or what's the next step you are going to take. And that buys you more room for facing the audience and managing your stress. So don't rush. Keep it steady and slow. Tip number 6, as I say, there is no alternative. Practice, practice, and practice. The more you practice, the more accurate you will be, the more confident you will be, and the less stressed you will feel, and the more controlled you will feel, and the more confidently you will overcome your fear. Now, these are some of the tips that I gave you to make a good presentation. Having said that, I understood that you already know the basics of the presentation, the formatting, the font, the color composition and all, the gesture, the posture and all. These are the 6 tips I would like to give you to make your presentation a good one. But are we happy to make a good presentation, or we want to make it a great one?
Sir, a great one.
A great one, right? We want to make an impact, because just make a presentation is not good enough. We need to make a great presentation, and when we will make a great presentation, or if and only if we can make an impact in the audience. Now, if before entering in a room, before entering in your presentation, if the audience, let's say before entering a presentation, if the audience have an idea regarding a subject, and when he comes out of the room after your presentation, if the level of understanding, if the conviction about the subject or topic remains the same, then what's the point of the presentation altogether? If you cannot add any value, if you cannot equip your audience with a piece of information or probably a change of perception, then there is no point doing a presentation. So we need to create a presentation for impact. So we need to make an impact. And all the topic, all the tips remain same to make a good presentation to a greater one, to a great one. Just a couple of things we need to tweak. Number 1, remember, your presentation is not only a presentation. Because when you are asking your audience to listen to you, you're buying their time. Just understand the average time span for an adult to understand a topic or towards a topic is 5 to 10 minutes. Now, if you cannot make the impression in the first 5 to 10 minutes, they will lose interest or they will lose attention on your presentation or on your topic. Your presentation is like a journey. Now, when you are traveling with your friend, what makes the journey interesting? If some of you could give me some clue. If you're traveling with a friend or you're having a journey with your friend, what makes the journey a bit interesting?
Collaboration.
Collaboration. The time, because you like to spend time with your friend because you like chatting, you like the chat you have, right? So the journey, a presentation is like a journey. And if you want to make the journey interesting for your audience, here goes the tip number 7, to make your presentation an impactful one. And I would say this is one of the most important piece of the presentation, of today's presentation, is build a story around your presentation. Now, a presentation, do understand, a presentation is often boring, like mine, the one I'm giving you. It's a boring one. But trust me, when you want to make your audience understand your topic, when you'll be in real field, then don't just make a presentation, make a story around your presentation. Now, let me give you an example. How can you make a story? Now, let's say, there is a project going on. You need to fund. You want to build a bridge somewhere over the canal, and that's the project that you want your financiers to invest in. You want your investors to invest in your project when you are doing the project proposal in front of your investors. Don't just tell them, this is the bridge I'm going to make. This will be built out of this cement and this kind of rod. This will have this level of strength, stuff like that. Make it a story. Build a story around it so that it gives them something to buy in. Now, let's say, you could say, instead of just some robotic numbers, what was the situation before in the surrounding villages when there is no bridge altogether? What are the terrible incidents? Name some of the terrible incidents that happened when there's no bridge on the river or the canal. Now, when you build a canal, when you build a bridge over the canal, what are the things that are going to change? What are the impact that the bridge will create the people surrounding to the canal? And then you propose that there is a bridge you need to build, and then propose how your bridge is different from all other bridge that the investors would love to finance in. So bring in all the differentiating factor that what are the unique points that you are proposing in your bridge that the other project proposals will not have. So what are the unique points that you have in your bridge? So build a story around it. Make a presentation like a story. Everybody like a story. So if you can do that, you will have a purpose of your presentation, and it will give you a process flow of the presentation, give a background of the presentation, and then have a flow, build a story around, have a flow of a presentation. Don't put informations that are not relevant to each other. Make them relevant so that ultimately you can reach to a point. Tip number 8 that I would like to give is, sometimes logic is acceptable always, but there are times when enthusiasm outweighs the height of logic. If you're enthusiastic, if your conviction, if your depth of conviction towards a subject is high, if you're very confident about a subject, now despite logic, if your enthusiasm will outweigh the logic. If you're passionate enough, your passion will have the power to outweigh logic. So you need to be passionate about what you are going to present. So whatever you are presenting, first you need to have your full conviction on the topic you are going to present, and then only you will be able to make your point come across to your audience. Am I understood here?
Sir, you can repeat once more time.
Okay. So basically, there are occasions where I've seen presentations with full of numbers, with full of graph and everything. Now, interesting to know that your audience very often are interested about numbers. Just focus on the key informations that you want them to understand, but focus more on the passion you have towards the subject you are presenting. Now, if you are presenting a project, you need to be fully convinced about the content of the project within you. If you are confident enough, if you have full confidence on the project proposal, then only you will have the passion about the project, and then it will outweigh the logical aspects of some of the projects. Your conviction will make it happen. So you need to be very passionate about whatever topic you're going to present. You need to fully understand what you're going to present, and you need to have full conviction of your topic that you would like to present. Unless your logic will overpower. Tip number 9. make it entertaining as well. Don't only put informations and informations and informations, because at some point, some of the audience will be lost. So make your presentation entertaining. You can insert an audio clip, you can insert a video material, you can do a role play in between your presentation to make the point clear to you understand towards your audience. You can do activity, what we call is icebreakers, or we call energizers. Now, in between, if you see your audience are a bit low in energy, do some energizing activity involving the audience. You can just ask them to stand up and then sit down, and then stand up and sit down. Do some little physical movement, yeah, just to get the boredom out of the room. So keep them engaged. Also, you can do a lot of other activities. You can crack jokes if you're confident enough. You can put some musicals just to glue your audience, keep their attention. And don't forget to breathe. Take a deep breath. Take few deep breaths in between. While you're presenting, take few deep breaths, because when you take a deep breath, that will increase the oxygen level in your brain, and you will feel relaxed, and you will feel more oriented, and you will feel more controlled, and that will give you more room to logically connect it with your audience. Yeah, and it will buy you some time to be present there. Tip number 11. Before tip number 11, I would like to show you a video. Let me see if I can show you that. Just a second. Let me just stop sharing for a while. Let me reconnect. Let me get the link right. Guys, can you see my screen? I'm not sure if the audio will be okay.
No, sir.
No?
You can see your screen. No.
You can or you cannot?
You can't. You can. We can't.
We can't. Okay. All right. Let me see what I can do. Okay. And how about now? Do you see my screen now?
Yes, sir. We can see.
Do you see a YouTube?
Yes.
Do you see YouTube?
Video.
Okay. So here you go.
Is there any background music
Yeah. No, no,
or
no.
any sound?
Yeah, just the video.
Just the video.
So have you seen the video?
Yes, sir.
What is your understanding of that video? A cow. Did you see two cows?
Yes, sir.
And they were trying to prove if the thing that was floating in the water, if that was a crocodile or that was a log. Correct? One was trying to prove that was crocodile or alligator. The other one was trying to prove that was a log. And the one that wanted to prove it as a crocodile pushed it so hard, he kept on trying to prove that it was a crocodile. Basically, his persuasion at the end of the day had him killed. Right? So, yes. So our tip number 11 is basically don't kill yourself in persuasion. Don't kill yourself in persuasion, meaning don't push yourself so hard in a topic, prove your point again and again and over again, that basically finally you'll not be able to make it unless you are dead. So if you want to make your point come across, if you want to make your point clear to your audience, instead of doing the same thing over again, you can use something interesting, something more compelling, right? Like instead of using data tables or big data tables, you can use graphical tools like bar diagrams. You can use a pie chart. You can use visually interesting tools instead of numbers in a slide. So what will happen is just highlight, instead of putting a table across, just bring the key points of the table and mention it probably in a pie chart or probably in a graphical interesting tool. Now nowadays you will have lot of interesting tools like infographics. You will have smart art, smart shapes, yeah, and you can use interesting statistical tools like bar diagram, pie charts, and then donuts, and a lot of other stuffs, even speedometer, to make your points clear and visually interesting, so that you can make your audience understand very easily without even trying so hard. Now, even if with all this, if you do all these 11 tips that I gave you, and there are so many other tips you will find in Google, in probably Harvard Business Review, and there are a lot of other pages. You will find thousands of tips, but these are the 12 tips, 11 tips that I find quite profound if you want to create an impactful presentation and create an impact in your audience. Now, let's say, despite all this, still you feel the fear and still you think the first attempt was not a good one. Don't be grumpy, don't be angry on yourself. Don't be angry on yourself and don't process the anger. Let it go, because if this is your first time, the more you practice, first time, second time, third time, you'll be getting sharper and sharper and sharper, and you'll be finally able to glue your audience. You'll be finally able to glue your audience towards your presentation, towards you, and then don't forget to give you a thank you. Yeah, so thank you, audience. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
So thank you very much.
Thank you. I hope some part of it helped.